What's going on, everybody? Dev Delma. Mustache, back with a brand new mustache. A very special mustache for a very special video. And today I'm back with a list of 30 albums, mixtapes, EPs, and projects that I thought were my favorite and or the best of this year, 2018. I'll be listing these off from number 30 to number 1 being my very, very favorite. Each has a little speech prepared for them, some shorter, some longer, but every one of them has been written inside of this little notebook here that has every YouTube review I've done since I've started. And today it is full. So hopefully that means newer and better things for Dev Delmalino. Now, without further ado, let's start talking about some albums I really, really enjoyed this year. Bitch, I'm motherfucking nasty. Rico Nasty just dropped a breakthrough mixtape in 2018 titled Nasty, and I gotta say I feel embodied in the spirit of Rico listening to this mixtape, which is really impressive, especially for a female MC. That means she came in and she is doing things completely her own way. Very violent lyrics with a sassy delivery over these Kenny beats. Oh my god. Thus, a very unique project is spawned. Punk band Parquet Courts released their 6th studio effort in May, this time just shaking one major thing up, and that was adding hip-hop producer Danger Mouse into the creative, productive mix. And the result is a punky, funky, and rapid exhibition of tracks titled Wide Awake. Not only with this material is so much of it just like catchy, the punk-funk fusion that exists on this record is just profound. It's so tastefully done. It gives this album a dynamic that I really haven't heard in many other albums, and I love these woke-ass lyrics. Anyone who's talking about quitting your shitty 9-to-5, protesting, and rising up against the bourgeois, you have my attention. Rapper Homeboy Sandman has collided with rapper-producer Edan for an EP of sorts. Humble Pie is a noisy, psychedelic, and lyrical piece of underground rap. Again, if you like your hip-hop a little wordy, a little weird, off the beaten path, then this is for you. It's very deeply rooted in golden era boom-bap type hip-hop, but they do go kind of way out with it. KTSE stands for Keep That Same Energy, and I have not kept that same energy since I first reviewed this album when I thought it was really, really, really good. Now, to me, it's just really good. What is really good about this album, though, and what makes it superior to most other R&B albums I've heard in the last couple years, really, bending together soul music and elements from traditional and classic R&B of the past, contemporary R&B of the here and now, and alternative R&B of the future. All of this accomplished between 7 tracks, so it's very quick and to the point, though I do think it left some to be desired. It was a bit abbreviated from, I think, what its original contents were to make that 20-minute mark time. I can't believe this 13-year-old white kid from Philly is making better trap music than most people making trap music right now. Now, let's stop here for a moment. If you're not into the trap sound, if you're not into the SoundCloud era, you won't like this. So steer clear. But if you like people like Smoke Perp, Lil Pump, Lil Skies, or even Juice WRLD, a bunch of dudes who I think are, kind of trash, and you're not listening to Matt fucking Ox, are you kidding me? At first it was just a meme to me, and then Oxtober came along, and then this album Ox came out, and it's not a meme anymore. This is good music. I'm looking forward to the next Matt Ox project. God. Swimming by Mac Miller, it sounds a lot different now, doesn't it? A lot of the lyrics will stand out to you, and for me, this album grew on me a lot. And I'll just say I'm going to be really happy to remember the Mac Miller that is on this album from now till, The Black Panther soundtrack, curated by Top Dog Entertainment, Kendrick Lamar, and Ludwig Göransson, is kind of a groundbreaking modern movie soundtrack. And even by the year's end, you are seeing the blueprint laid down by this soundtrack reimagined for the promotion of movies like Creed 2 and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So I kind of rest my case there. It's a really good batch of tracks. Here we have a very artsy, vocal, and black collection of art pop and alternative R&B tracks that have some pretty awesome hip-hop influences and guest verses, A$AP Rocky, Project Pat, P. Diddy, and it all has this very British high fashion tinge to it that makes it one of the more outstanding albums of the year. Kids on Drugs, Killing Our Demons, King Overdosed. When I first reviewed this album when it came out, I gave it a little higher praise than I'm willing to give it now, seeing as I've come to realize that maybe J. Cole is getting a little bit more predictable with album releases. But still, this is a very complete album, a very enjoyable collection of music, enough to be one of the best albums of the year, but not in my like top 10 necessarily. Trump's got a love child, and I hope that bitch is buck wild. Man, I can't stop saying that is the best opening line to a song I think I've ever heard. This Oxnard album was pretty great. It's a very fun ride, and the most important thing of it all is that Anderson.Paak is really entertaining and at the very forefront of all the music, and I have a lot of respect for the very tightly produced, tightly performed project that is Oxnard. It's just in totality, it doesn't quite stand out as much as I guess the next 20 albums I'm going to talk about. Flex for the fuck boys, hate cause you suck, boy. Whoo! You gotta love that self-proclaimed rapping ass nigga Yachty. He is so dope. He's got beats, he's got bars, he's got flow, he's got it all. And I'm really not kidding when I say Yachty has actually improved his ability to rap, his chops as an artist. Little Boat 2 is actually a really cohesive piece of work, and it is a huge step up from Teenage Emotions, the debut album that came before this, which was horrible. I'm just trying to give Yachty props where props is due, and if y'all not listening to this, then forget y'all. This is one of the most recent albums I've reviewed on my channel. I gave it a very glowing review. Like, just culturally in rap music, I found it to be a really important and satisfying moment from someone who I think is a better rapper, a better lyricist, a way more clear-headed musician than I've ever seen him. So if you only heard this thing like once or twice, maybe pretty casually, I would go back and re-listen and maybe take out some of the filler songs that are on this album, but get to the meat of this album that has some really, really great content on it. Again, one of the most important records, I think, to come out in 2018. A huge shout out to Dr. Dot and Johnny Venus for dropping one of the best rap EPs this year. Earth Gang is an affiliate of J. Cole's Dreamville Records. They are signed to the label, and this is their last project before the album drops, Mirrorland, which is coming pretty soon. I personally was pretty lukewarm on their previous projects like the Rags EP, the Riches EP, and the Strays with Rabies mixtape, but this particular 5-song EP has a really great collection of raps, beats, and really well-made sticky hooks. So I give this album a lot of merit, not only based on what I think of it, but just how much I listened to it, especially early on in the year. Yo, Vince Staples is putting the FM back in fun. This is certainly one of the best, most fun, most exciting albums I've heard all year. I haven't been this into Vince Staples since Hell Can Wait EP, maybe summertime 06. FM is my kind of rap project, and that all starts with a very deep West Coast sound. So this is really cool new territory for him. He kills it. The guest verses, I like them all. Beats, Kenny Beats again. God, I fucking love that guy's beats. And the atmosphere, both developed in the songs and in these skits, make me feel like I'm listening to the radio, which I think is the point. Iridescence was one of the most interesting projects released this year. It certainly had one of the most interesting storylines outside of the music, which I think naturally made it one of the most anticipated albums of the year. So a lot of expectations riding on this project, a lot of change up in the makeup of the group. And, you know, I have to give them a lot of credit for going out and making the project that they made. It's not perfect. And when I first heard this, I really liked it. And then I didn't really like it as much. And now I'm kind of back to liking it a lot with a couple caveats. I basically wish this album would have remained between states of catharsis. So, 2 types of songs basically, angry and confrontational, boiling over into sadness and confusion. But some middling material, not so great. But I do have to end this by saying Joba is the star of this project, and he really works that cathartic balance the best of anybody. This is a really gritty underground street rap. This is a very gritty New York underground street rap album. The lyricism, the lyrical content, and the stories, all very vivid, detailed, and convincing. There is not a doubt in my mind after hearing this project that Benny is with the shits. And in an interesting way, because when I think of like gang shit, I think of someone like Young Nudie. When I'm listening to Benny, it sounds like fucking Mob Ties. It's like this dude is a made man. One extra note here, this album caps off and represents well a great year for an up-and-coming record label that Benny the Butcher is on, Griselda Records. Griselda Records boasts Benny and fellow New Yorkers Westside Gunn and Conway the Machine as its premier artists, all of which have a similar gritty underground New York kind of style. So if you like this project, there's a good chance that there's like 6 more combined albums these guys put out this year that you'll like. Okay, which one of you guys woke Black Thought the fuck up? Because he is out here eating beats, shitting out EPs, dropping crazy heat. Streams of Thought Volume 1, and fuck it, let's throw Volume 2 in here as well. Volume 1 has been produced entirely by Ninth Wonder, the GOAT, the legend, and Volume 2 is produced entirely by Salaam Remi. Both of these are really great. The first one particularly struck me, and maybe it's because he opens up this first song, 215, talking about back when Burning Man was blacks in Birmingham. What the fuck? This is definitely the kind of music that you want to support. Hopefully we're gonna get more. I would just like more EPs, honestly. I would like more EPs of Black Thought just working with a different producer. Colombian singer Kali Uchis put out a very respectable, very replayable breakout album titled Isolation this year. I found myself really impressed with just how often this album fit the mood. No matter where I was, no matter what time of year it was, no matter who I'm playing this for, it seems to fit. This was one of those can't miss records this year, so I urge you, if you haven't heard this, to go check it out. A lot of people, a lot of publications have it even higher on their lists than I do. Shout out to everybody out there that was out listening to Freddie, Gibbs, Curren, the Alchemist, all back in like 2012, 2011. The fact that this album even came to fruition is just nuts to me. I didn't know I needed this album, but damn, I need it. Fetti, the album is just simple arithmetic. You take some Curren, you take some Freddie Gibbs, and you add a little Alchemist on the beats, and you get number 12 on my Albums of the Year list. Just like that. Ravyn Lenae's Crush EP, co-written and produced by the internet's Steve Lacy, was my first favorite piece of music in 2018. Likewise to the KTS Tiana Taylor album, Crush has a great contemporary and throwback mix going for it. And having Steve Lacy behind the scenes on this project made me realize that I think he's a genius. This is the highest ranked R&B project on my list, so kudos to Ravyn Lenae. Little Dark Age is a very colorful and vibrant, but also very dark, eerie, and weird, and kind of otherworldly experience, I guess. Outside of hip-hop, my most beloved and most revisited album, maybe because of the sheer amount of just catchy fucking tunes on this thing. Me and Michael, When You Die, Little Dark Age, and She Works Out Too Much, all some of the best songs I've heard in 2018, period. Alright, I know for a lot of you this was your number one, and a lot of people thought this would be my number one as well. Well, now that the dust is all settled, I really tried to compare this album to her previous album, Telephone, and what I've come up with is that, objectively speaking, I think they're actually kind of on the same exact level. Like, I think they're just as good as one another, which I think is a major accomplishment by No Name to follow up a great album with another pretty much as great album. It's just completely different. And then subjectively speaking, I think as far as a batch of tracks goes, I just fell in love with Telephones more than I did with Room 25. So I would imagine if I just took a better liking to these tracks, you know, Telephone ended up at number 4 on that year's list, so Room 25 would be up there, but you know, there's a lot of great shit that came out this year, and I didn't get enough time to focus on Room 25 alone. Keeping it in the family here for a moment, like brother and sister, Saba gets to follow up after No Name with his album Care For Me. Man, I campaigned for this album so much over the year, and I gotta make a point of this. I think Saba is the type of musician I like rooting for the most. I've seen him over the years really try to improve as a musician. It shows up on this album. He's really trying to make complete music, and I respect that. And Care For Me has on it what I think is the song of the year, Prom/King. Very intriguing, vivid, and gripping story about death, family, friendship, the music business, and just generally the ups and downs of life, with amazing deliverance of the lyrics and using the instrumental as a storytelling device. Shout out to people making their own beats, writing their own rhymes, constructing their own sound in 2018. As you'll see, more and more of these people begin to round out the top of my list. Veteran is like nothing I've ever heard before, both in the best and the weirdest ways. A lot of screaming and shouting, angry and confrontational lyrics, really glitchy and intricate and detailed instrumentals. This album embraces meme culture and internet culture in a way I haven't heard a rap album do before. Everything about this album actually is just turned up to 11. That is kind of Peggy's MO. And the result is honestly a groundbreaking piece of rap music. And yes, this is a pretty far out, pretty experimental rap album, but I wouldn't let that scare you. Like for me, Death Grips, a little too much. I'm not really into them, not really into that. But obviously, I really enjoyed this Peggy album, and that's mostly because of its accessibility. Man, what a year it has been for Travis Scott. Astroworld was one of those albums where after just a couple listens, I had this thing pretty profiled out as to what its major strengths and what some of its limitations were. The songs that I didn't really like so much at the time didn't really grow on me. The songs that I knew were great at the time, still pretty great. I just found this to be an incredibly fun album. There's so much to gawk at, particularly, again, early on when you don't know where all the features are coming in and what is happening exactly. Like, oh, what the fuck? There's a Stevie Wonder harmonica solo in here? Who the fuck is Don Toliver and why does he have the best verse on the entire album? So yeah, if I was just listing based on music quality alone, you know, maybe this takes a couple steps back in my list. But again, I just ate this thing up for like months. I listened to this thing so much. I don't really need to say a lot here other than the fact that I just really enjoyed Pusha T being reimagined into this 7-song, 20-minute long album concept. Because while his previous albums have been pretty good, they are bigger, they are more grandiose, and I just realized that boiling everything down to a Pusha T stock, the very, very basics of it all, there are not a lot of rappers that I would put ahead of Pusha T when it comes to just the basics. I think I just like this era of Pusha T. The album is fantastic. This whole beef with Drake seemed to go very favorably in Pusha T's direction, I would say. And it looks like Pusha T is already working on some new music, so we'll just wait for that. Drogas Wave is one of the most impressive and dense albums I've heard in years. I didn't quite like it as much as I did Tetsuo and Youth back in 2014. I do really respect the length of this album and how good it is for a 100-minute runtime, but this album works well in the short game too. I think you can split it up into a highlight reel of good songs. Lupe jumped at the opportunity to do something that only he could do. I really respect that, thus one of my favorite projects of the year. Pieces of a Man is another album I listened to and streamed and round and round and round again. My favorite element of the album is the essence it embodies of the source material from which it draws. So if y'all never listened to Pieces of a Man by Gil Scott-Heron, then I would check that out. Then I would check this album out. I think Mick Jenkins really found himself his own musical and philosophical identity in aligning himself with the ideology of Gil Scott-Heron and the themes and motifs that you hear in the original Pieces of a Man, as well as the very jazzy overtones, the spoken word aspects of both of those albums. I just think it's an amazing ode to an amazing album, and it's done justice. And I listened to it a whole fucking lot this year. So, number 3. Kids See Ghosts was such a fast and unpredictable and invigorating musical experience. Like, I didn't really know what to expect going into the album, but I certainly didn't expect what I ended up getting. And I just don't think I will forget listening to this album for the first time. It just kind of like blew my mind because some of the ideas were really unprecedented, but so finely executed, and all the production seemed so perfectly placed. And then as far as the performances and the personalities between Kanye and Kid Cudi here, they both have very defining performances. They both have very defining performances on the album. And then before you know it, the album is just over. Like, all this experience, all this craziness happens within 20 minutes of music. So yeah, this album just kind of left my brains on the wall. Had I came back to it more times than my number 1 album, I think I maybe would have put it at number 1. But it's not. And my number 1 album is... Alright, one second. Let me get my fucking vinyl out. This album here, Dirty Computer, Janelle Monae, is a masterpiece. And this vinyl of the album is going away to the person who won my Dev Delmolino Album of the Year giveaway, who is, drumroll, 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 some guy named Charles, Instagram user Charles Tutha, another Instagram reviewer. We actually may be doing some work together in the near future, but he's been a very active follower on my Instagram for a little while now. Charles, you are winning a very fun, poppy, self-liberating, self-indulgent album. The thing that I love about this album and all its components is that Janelle Monae is extremely hands-on with every piece of it. From the writing, to the production, to the performances, to the acting, to the record label this was made under. In the studio, this was made in. Janelle Monae owns everything here. And this album, when you are really listening to some of the words of it, will tell you a lot about the plight of Black and brown people, women, queer people, in a very honest and in-your-face and eventually kind of sweet way. And it reminds you that at the end of the day, on the inside, we are all just pink. So I will be mailing this out soon, but that is my favorite album of the year. And that is the list. 30 albums up, 30 albums down. I'm feeling like this has been a fantastic year of music. And I think we have some potential releases, some albums alluded to drop in 2019 that are going to be pretty crazy as well. And that's all you get from Dev Delma Mustache today. If you're still watching this, guys, I love you. Thank you so much. There's going to be some great things coming from Dev Demolino in 2019. I'm excited to share them with you soon, but not too soon, alright? So have a happy fucking holiday, and I'll holla at you next time, alright? Peace.